So the last clip I made was about writing diets, and in this one I'm going to make it really short and concise. I'm going to use myself as a case study, and I'm going to give you an idea of how I would write a diet. If you look at here, I've written some macros down that I've gained from the book that I referred to in the last one, the ISSN book. Now this book has different macros for different sports. And so you can see the macro breakdown for football, and that was also differed from which position you play in football. But in this position here, it's 52% of the calories coming from carbs, 30 from protein, 18 from fat. Here's a track athlete, 63 come from carbs, 15% from protein, 22 from fat. And a bodybuilder, 45% of the calories coming from carbs, 30 from protein, 25 from fat. Looking at that, that's quite a high fat intake, but meal prep, plug to my product here, this one has a macro breakdown of 50% carbs, 30% protein, 20% fat, very similar to this one, a little bit lower in the fat and a little bit higher in the carbs. But then I also have a keto version, which is only 5% of the calories coming from carbs. So anyway, getting back to what we're talking about here, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how this whole works. So like people say, can you write me a diet? I'm going to show you how to do it. And I'm sure there's lots of apps out there that can do it, but this is to get you to understand how you do it, or if you're actually going to sit down and break out the calories yourself. A quick refresher, if we remember, carbohydrates is 4 calories per gram, protein is 4 calories per gram, and fat is 9 calories per gram. So we're going to keep that in mind when we're doing the breakdown. Now over here you can see a footballer, according to the ISSN, the International Society of Sports Nutrition, they are saying a footballer could have anywhere between 2,000 to 11,000 calories per day. And then you have a bodybuilder that was suggesting about 2,000 to 5,000, and that was men, and 1,000 to 4,000 for females. So this one here, this is what we're going to look at today. So 5,000, 4,000, I heard someone say that someone at the gym was taking 20,000 calories a day. I don't know how many calories you've tried as your maximum. I've tried having 6,000 calories for about a week, and I just couldn't handle it. So if you're trying, this is when you have to start eating dirty. If you're trying to get over 5,000 calories, it's really hard to do that eating clean. But there's not that much calories in broccoli. There's not that much calories in lean chicken. So if you're going to get up to that mark, that's why you often hear Dave Palumbo would have 1 McDonald's meal a day just to get the calories up there. So let's get back to the point of this video. I'm going to be using first, initially, this app here, this calorie calculator. So I showed you this one earlier in the last video, but let's do me, okay? I'm going to give you my age now. I am now 47 years old. So I type in 47 up here. Then I am a male, so I have that one. And then I have, so I'm going to put myself metric. So I am 179. Realistically, I have to factor in that I am getting old now. I probably have shrunk. I was 179. I'm probably 178 now. And then here we say the weight. Now I can weigh myself here, and it says I know I'm around about 100 kilos, and I'm lean, so I'm fairly close to I don't know, I can see my six pack, I can see the veins. I would say I'm cruising around 10% body fat. So if I was to put that in at 100 kilos, that's pretty accurate. If you were, say for example, fairly overweight and you weighed 100 kilos, and realistically you know, your dream, your goal weight is 85 kilos, then put in the 85 kilos as your dream weight. So don't write a diet for someone weighing 100 kilos if you know a lot of that is actually just fat weight. So I'm putting in 100 kilos. So I got 47, 178, and then also 100 kilos. Now, the first thing I have then is BMR. That's the dot there selected. I do calculate, and then I can see, according to the BMR, can you see over here? Okay, I have 1883. Can you guys see that? 18. I'll change color because I think my black marker is getting a bit crap. 1883. That's how many calories I'm supposed to consume if I'm going to just lay completely still and not do anything. That's how much calories it takes for me to just remain in a hospital bed. That's my basal metabolic rate. So we don't eat for that because that's just silly. Interestingly enough, that's my 2000 here. So if I have 2000 calories a day, which is what the RDAs and DRIs would say, that's not much above my BMR. So if I was to have a 2000 calorie a day diet, no wonder I'd feel like I have no energy, because I'd actually have very little calories to use. So 2000 calories is that kind of like standard. Everyone's on a 2000 calorie a day diet. You can see that that is very, very individual based on so many factors. So now that was the BMR. That was the result of the BMR. Now let's say I train, I train at least four times a week. So I'm going to exercise 4 or 5 times a week here. And that puts me right in the middle, like not super in at the super aggressive physical job. I don't have a very physical aggressive job. I have a fairly sedentary job. So, this is pretty much right in the middle there. And that then gives me 2,758. So 2,758 is how many calories I need to consume in order for me to stay the same. And remember, if you were 100 kilos and you did it for the 85 kilos, that would be the calories. Just like, bear with me here. The calories I get now at this result is for me to get to where I want to be if I was going from 100 to 85. Now I've just worked out what I need to stay me now, not build muscle, not change, just be me, just stay me, just for me to continue to be me. That's how much I need to consume every day. I know pretty much I don't eat that, so I'm probably not going to be growing any muscle. I don't think I've grown any muscle in a while. So I'm just like, there's a few people I see at the gym who look the same day in, day out, year in, year out, and that's probably because they're like doing this. There's no real change in stimulus. There's no change in food. I don't know what they're expecting. I just assume when I see that person, you kind of want to go up to them and say, hey, good job staying the same. And they're going, what are you training for? Are you training to stay the same? No, I'm trying to change. Oh, okay. Well, you must be pretty frustrated since I've been a member here 2 years and I haven't seen you change. Look, the thing is, if you are going to the gym to maintain, this is what you do now. You're going to maintain. If I want to change, I have to change from this. If I want to go up in muscle size, I have to eat above this. How much you eat above that is arguable. Dave Palumbo will say you need to have you can't just eat an extra 500 calories. You have to eat kind of an extra, or at least an extra 1,000 to 2,000 calories over that. So to put on new muscle tissue is a lot harder than to just go down in fat. But I would have to eat at least 500 over that. So then I'd be aiming for like 3,200 calories per day if I was going to put on weight. Alternatively, if I'm going to lose weight here, I've got 2,005 or 2,200 to lose weight. So that's me when I like to eat 500 calories under. So 2,200 calories is for me to lose weight from where I am. From where I am here, for me to lose weight. So 2,200 or 3,200. So 3,200 if I want to put on some muscle, 2,200 if I want to go down. So let's do both of those. Why not? So let's put the lock on for once. Okay. Don't need that rolling around. Okay. So we know that the calories you have, we had carbs was 4, protein was 4, fat was 4. And we looked at the macro breakdown. The macro breakdown for bodybuilding, well, I think it was 45, 35, and 25, was it? There's too many fives there. 30, yeah. 30, 45, 30, 25. That's what they said for bodybuilding. Now, you may have some people said 40, 40, 30. That's one. 40 carbs, 40 protein, 30 fat. No, sorry. And look, it's been a long day. Let's go. 40, 40, 20, I meant. Then you've also seen, I've actually seen 50% protein, and then we can make up the rest, 30, 20. And then some extreme ones here, you're taking 60 protein, and then you may be just doing 10 fat. What's left over here, 30. You have to remember, bodybuilding is anaerobic training. We have to focus on these carbs. If you're going to put on muscle tissue, you have to lift the muscle. You have to train the muscle, tear the muscle, build the muscle. You build with protein, but how much protein was it we're supposed to consume? Remember when we looked at that, we said it's 0.8 for a sedentary person, but it was 1.5 to 1.7, which is to grow to 1.5 to 1.7 grams of protein per kilo body weight. So 1.7, 1.8, some people having 2 grams. Remember, they'd say 1 gram per pound. And remember, a pound is 1 pound, 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds. So that's why we get these points here. So 1.7, 1.5, this is we're gonna work with that figure today. That's how many grams of protein. So now, if we're looking at the breakdown of 50% of the calories are coming from carbs, that's a pretty nice number because it's going to give us all the energy to train. Then what's left? We've got 30 and 20. 20, you might think that's a lot of fat, but remember, we're trying to build, and build is just not just eating lots of carbs and protein. Fats are very important. These are good healthy fats. So it's not just having egg yolks or animal fats. This is consuming macadamia oil or walnut oils or oils that are really good for you. Olive oil. Try not to have too much seed oils. That's the kind of the big thing these days. And canola oil, don't even use that at all. Butter, I'm a big fan of butter. Love butter. You need to have some saturated fat. They say around 10% of the fat should be saturated fat. You need to consume some saturated fat. And you got your omega-3, 6, 9. Remember, 3 times as much omega-3 to 6 and 9. So lots of omega-3. Anyway, getting back to this one, we got carbs, protein, and fat. So if I'm going to do my diet based on that, here we have these 2,000 to 5,000. And let's start with this one, 3,200. So 3,200 calories I'll try to consume a day. I'm going to make a diet now to hit 3,200. Now, following this breakdown, and my calculator out, this is where it gets just really easy. So 3,200, half of that's going to come from carbs. So 3,200 divided by, 3,200 times 0.5. 1,600. I didn't need a calculator for that, but I did it just for the sake of it. So 1,600 calories are coming from carbs. Divide that by 4. Boom. 400 grams of, 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 400 protein. So we've got 3,200, times 0.4, 1,280 calories coming from protein, divided by 4, 320 grams of protein per day. Then we got fat. So 3,200 times 0.2, that's 640, divided by 9, remember? That was a 9. Divided by 9, 71 grams of fat. So this is my this is my macro breakdown. 400, 320, 71. So I have to have 400 grams of protein, 320 grams of carbs. Oh, sorry, 320 grams of, let's do that again. 320 times 4. Yep. Okay. I had to double check that. 320 grams of protein. So this is what you think about it. If your average protein shake is 30 grams, so 320 with the average protein shake being 30 grams divided by 30, that's 10 protein shakes a day to get that. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but it gives you an idea of what you're kind of working with. If you're shooting for around 20 grams of 30 grams of protein per meal, it's 10 meals. So that's not going to be very feasible. So let's aim for 60 grams of protein per meal. So we have 320 divided by 60. That's 5 meals. So 5 meals having 60 grams of protein. Now that's not too hard to do, because you'll be surprised how much protein is in meats and different sources. So total protein intake, and this is seriously 3,200 calories. It's quite a lot, because I mean, look at that. I have to eat 400 grams of carbs, 320 grams. If you're not somebody that's used to eating, I mean, you can take all the MK677 you want, but you need to. It's so hard to eat when you're not hungry. Anyway, let's work on this one now. This one's much more easier to do. So 2,200. Then we go times 0.5. So that's 1,100 divided by 4, 275 grams of carbs. Then we have 2,200 times 0.4, 880 divided by 4, 220, and then 220 times 0.2, that's 440 divided by 9, 48. It's very quick. It's very quick to get to 48 grams of fat, especially if you're eating like beef or salmon, or you're having peanut butter. I mean, you will get to this amount quite quick. That's why it's so easy to actually have that fat at 25 rather than 20, because you may just have, if you're trying to get this fat at through natural sources, and you'll find that there's a fat hidden in a lot of things. Anyway, so looking at the board now, 3,200 means I have to have this macros. 2,200 means I have to have this macros. So 275 versus 400, 220 versus 320. So 220 divided by 30 grams of protein. That's 7 meals with 30 grams. And 100 grams of cooked chicken is about 30 grams of protein. So, you know, if you're having 150 grams of cooked chicken, that is about 45 grams of protein. So imagine that. If I'm having 150 grams cooked chicken, it's 45. So 220 divided by 45, that's less than 5 meals a day of chicken to get to this amount. Eating for this diet is really quite easy. It's very feasible. It's very doable. Remember, the woman bodybuilder is 1,000 to 4,000. So falling around this is a reasonable amount to get a woman to build some muscle on. You know, if I get a bikini athlete or or an athlete that's looking to add a little bit of size to their frame, but they're not bodybuilder, they're not enhanced, they're not taking any drugs, the 220 is a 2200 calories is a really nice amount to get their metabolism going, eating clean, and then you've got a lot you can pull back. You don't want to be giving a girl 1500 calories and expecting her to put on some muscle. Like a lot of the diets these days, you can see some extreme things going on. The old stuff is just this here. Carbs, we need carbs. It's anaerobic training we're doing. And according to the ISSN, bodybuilding is 100% anaerobic. So it could be higher than 50. But anyway, 50, 30, 20. So if I'm going to now have a diet to get to 400 grams of carbs, it was 2.6 to 8.3 grams of carbs per kilogram of body weight. So doing that math there, sorry. So I'm 100 kilos. 100 times 2.6, that's 260. So that's the very, very low end, right scrap bang in the middle. 8.3 minus 2.6 is 5.7. So then 5.7. Yeah, we would say, yeah, 5 and 6 grams of carbs a day. 100 times 5. This puts me over here. So I'm actually in the low, not in the middle. I'm a little bit on the low end of carbs for this here. Like 100 kilos. That's not big for a bodybuilder. Like, you know, a competitive IFBB pro is 120, 130 kilos. So weighing 100 kilos is not a high amount. And so if I was to follow this thing here, knowing that I have to get to 400 calories, it would be, I'll be eating 4 grams per kilogram. So that's, yeah, a little bit on the low side. That's what I'm shooting for here. So 4 grams per kilogram for carbs. And remember our protein we had from 100 times 1.7, that's 170. Here I'm doing 320. Here, this is a bit more realistic. That was closer to my 170. But realistically then, 320 grams of protein, 320, I want to make sure I get this right, 320 divided by 100, that's 3.2 grams of protein per kilogram. That's what I'm consuming. That's huge. That's why this number could actually be quite lower. You could actually drop that to 25. You know, some of the ISSN has it down to 15. 15. Imagine that. If it was 15, then that would be more closer to that 1.7 grams. But now 320. So 3.2 grams of protein per kilogram. I could easily exchange that and have more of this and less of this. Because as looking at this number, this is over twice of what is actually needed. So I could go down. So like after you get a diet and you have a client and you follow it for a week and you do the skin folds and you see how you're feeling, and you could adjust this. We could up the carbs and drop the protein. That's 100% doable. Milosh is a big fan of consuming a lot of protein. He's had 3 grams per kilogram. He does. That's by his means. That's not unusual. Now, on top of that, if you guys remember, we had the thermic effect. So protein had a 30% cost. So 30% of the calories from protein is actually used in the digestive process. So protein costs us a lot to digest. So protein, there's nothing wrong with having more protein. Protein is the safest thing to overeat. Remember, carbs was 5 to 20%, and fat was 0 to 5. So if anything, overdo the protein. This is complex carbs. This is simple carbs. And then fat costs very little to digest. So there you go. If I was going to write a diet for myself, the first thing I do is I punch in the stats, work out my BMR. First, you work out your BMR. Then we times it by the activity factor. And those apps will do that for you. That works out my caloric requirement. And then I break the macros down, and this is where we can tweak it. And this is individual per person. Now, some people are more carb sensitive. Some people are more protein, fat sensitive. So some people have issues with insulin. So we try to keep their fats quite low. Cut their carbs quite low, and so allow their body to react to the carbs they do have. But if you're always giving them high amounts of carbohydrates all the time, you'll end up finding that they react less and less because they're less sensitive to glucose. So remember, meal prep comes in two versions. You got this carb version, you got the keto version. These are a really, really good thing to use when you're doing this diet. This plugs right into here. So if I was actually going to have a meal, if I said, okay, you know what, I'm 400 calories behind for the day, and I'm going to get a meal that fits exactly in those macros, 450 calories per 100 grams, and I get exactly those macros there. Now, I'm not saying that every single meal you have should have the same macro content, because if you also remember back to my simplified plan that one of the first things I think in the last video, remember, was protein high, carbs come down, fat come up. So that means the morning meal and the nighttime meal have a different ratio. But this is the day. And a lot of people now are going towards, it's the total calories at the end of the day, not necessarily the calories that you have at each meal. So as long as you consume X amount of protein by the end of the day, then that's kind of hitting your macros. And remember, not all protein is equal, not all fat is equal, not all carb is equal. So you can't just go, okay, I'm behind now, I can have a bowl of ice cream to hit my macros. It's not going to be the same. You don't want to have the whole milk. You don't want to have all that saturated fat. You don't need that super fast burning carbohydrates. Just be smart, okay? But yeah, hopefully this helped you a little bit with getting the idea of how do I structure a diet and how does it fit into the macros. Find this. This is something you can play with. You can try a 60, 30, 10. We know that this one doesn't even need to be that high, but 60 will definitely allow you to train really, really hard and heavy. You could have 60. This is going to freak some people out. 20, having that little protein. But remember, this 20 is probably at least 2 grams of protein per kilogram. So this is still high, even if you drop that to 20. So find the macros that suit you. But this is why people pay for coaches. This is why people will talk to a trainer. But now hopefully you can sit there and have a go yourself. Plan a diet, write it out, and then look at the food, see, okay, how many grams of carbs is in this 100 grams of rice and 200 grams of chicken, and you can break down your meal, and you'll be surprised how relatively simple it is to write a diet. So you don't need to pay coaches a silly amount. You can actually do this on yourself, track it, write down a daily food chat, a daily food log, and give yourself some feedback and track it. This is what coaches do, but they don't tell you. This is what they do behind the scenes. It's not rocket science. People like Lee Priest say, if you don't know your own body, then change sport. Because the fact is, even though elite athletes should have a coach, the one person in the world that knows your body is you. You've had that body. You haven't had anyone else's body. You've had your body. If anyone's going to know you, it's you. So go with your gut. Give this a go. Give these macros a go. Work out your BMR. And I would love it to get some feedback, make some comments. I'm going to make this as a short clip so we can hopefully get a few shorts.